Hello, my favorite listener. I see you found your way back to Mikey and the Garden Arch. Must be Tuesday. This is episode 3. We're entitling this one The Loop. This is a Rustbout Studio production. Rustbout Studio has 2 other shows, Into the Dark of the Woods every Friday, and then the running buddy to this show, Engine of War. A little bit more gritty, steampunk style fantasy, maybe sci-fantasy. It runs on Tuesdays as well, on the opposite Tuesday as Mikey, because this is an every other Tuesday show. As we head into the holiday season, whether you're finding this as they're dropping or if you're finding this way later, just so you know, this episode was done around the holiday season. We're thankful here at Rustbout Studios for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting and everything you do to help keep the studio running. Settle in. The show's about to start. Spent the night in a whispering forest in rings of stones with a fox wearing an Ohio State varsity jacket. Oh, and the fox walks on 2 legs too, and he talks. Everything here pretty much talks apparently except the rocks, and who knows, maybe they do too. Maybe I just haven't met a rock who talks yet, I don't know. My face was dry now, but it was pretty tear-streaked and I knew it without looking. I cried more lately than I could remember. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how to get home. I was going to be in so much trouble when I did, and my parents, what must they be thinking? I mean, my mom, they'd think I got snatched. I suppose in a way I did, but not in a way anyone was ever going to find me. And my dad, he could see my bike from the house. It's not like I went far. The lot we played in was like 4 houses down. When he walked down there, madder by the second, and then found my bike without me, what was he going to think? When the light finally changed, the soft, heavy kind that makes you guess at dawn, I pushed myself upright. The moss clung to my shirt, and Johnson was already awake. Maybe he never slept, tail flicked slowly, ears sharp, his eyes bright as though the night hadn't touched him at all. I watched him for a long moment. The words were already burning a hole in my throat. They were the first thing I thought when the arch winked out. The first thing I'd carried through the whispering grass. The first thing I'd been too scared to say out loud. I didn't wait this time. My voice cracked as it came out. How do I get home? Johnson didn't blink. He stood, brushed a paw across his jacket like it mattered if dust collected there, which I appreciated, and then looked off toward the trees. For a second I thought he was ignoring me. You heard me. How do I get... The river. You can't go straight back. There's a bridge. We'll see what it says. That was it. No promises, no comfort, just direction. I jogged to catch up. My breath was misting in the early chill. A bridge? What kind of bridge? The kind that connects. I almost laughed, but the sound died in my throat when I saw the way his ears tilted back. He wasn't joking. So I stopped. I just wanted to punch him so bad. Johnson! How do I get home? He stopped then and sighed. Listen, Mikey. I'm going to tell you the way the world works here. You want something, you have to pay for it. Here there are 2 ways to pay. You either pay with wonder, something that comes from another world that is unique, or you pay with self. You give a piece of you. That's all anyone will take. Now I'm going to take you to a bridge and you're going to have to pay, and then we'll see what we see. That's the best I can do for you, kid. I jammed my hands in my pockets and I felt the sharp edges of the baseball cards I had dig into my palm. I felt my house key, the one I always grabbed whenever I went out because you could never be sure if someone was going to be home or not. I felt the loose change in my pocket. It wasn't much, but it was something to hold on to. I wanted him to say more, that there was a clear way back, that kids had made it through before me, that I wasn't just stranded here in these spiraled woods. But Johnson only flicked his tail and he kept walking. The wood shifted as we walked. The spiraled trunks thinned, their bark less like coils of rope and more like ordinary trees again, though ordinary didn't fit anything here. The whispers that had filled the grass fell back into a low murmur, still there if I strained for them, but far enough away that I could almost pretend they were wind. The ground sloped gently, pulling us downhill, and the air grew damp, the kind of damp that clings to your clothes and gets in your bones, and after a while, the smell of water rose sharp and cold, cleaner than tap water and heavier than rain. Johnson's ears twitched. He didn't look back. He didn't slow, but his tail made a short flick that meant he smelled it too. Then the trees parted and the river appeared. It was wide, wider here than it was when the river folk were here. In fact, wider than any river I'd ever seen in Ohio, and glassy. A flat mirror stretched further than I could see. Its surface didn't just show sky and the banks. It held reflections of things that weren't there at all. Streetlights bent over sidewalks, bikes leaned against fences, houses from my block, familiar, small, brick-faced, even the vacant lot shimmered on the current, half submerged, the chain-link fence rippling where the water lapped against it. I wanted to just jump in and swim home, but I didn't because that's not what Johnson had said. I started looking around some more and getting my bearings. Where did the river people go? And how did the river get so wide? Johnson's response was straightforward. The river people went with the river. They only show up when there's a need they can fill and a trade to be made. Otherwise, they float along. And the river is wide here because we need a bridge. I told you already, you can't go straight back. Straight lines go through. My chest was tight, and the sight made my eyes ache in a way that had nothing to do with brightness. I just wanted to step forward and dip my hands in and see if I could pull those reflections out and cradle them dripping in my palms. The river stirred as the wind moved across it, and the reflections rippled but didn't break. Then the bridge began to appear. It started with a single plank, dark with age, rising from nothing and clicking into place at the water's edge, and then another followed. Each board set itself like someone was dealing cards across the current one at a time, the sound sharp and final. I froze. The hair on my arms was all standing up. The planks arched upward as they stretched further out, and ropes unfurled alongside them like veins. Knots cinched themselves tight, and nails bit wood without hammer or hand. By the time we reached the first board, the bridge was whole, an arching span dark as stormwood, ropes creaking faint as though they thought they were alive. And at the center of the bridge sat a troll. He was striped, yellow and black like a wasp, squat like a boulder. His arms were crossed, and his skin looked carved from the same wood as the bridge, spirals etched deep into his cheeks and curling down his arms. His eyes were two chips of coal, and when he raised his head, they burned with a heat that made the planks under my shoes vibrate. My breath stuck in my throat, and the troll's voice carried like a drumbeat. Passage has a price. The sound of it rolled through me, thumping in my chest, buzzing in my teeth, and my knees wobbled. Johnson just looked at me. He gave me the smallest nod, the kind that said, "You know the rule now. Hey." Didn't know the rule. Not really. I mean, he traded a bottle cap for a bowl of soup. But that had felt like a choice. This wasn't a choice, this was a demand, and what was the weighted average of a crossing of a bridge? The troll unfolded his arms and placed one thick hand flat on the plank. His fingers curled into the grooves of wood like they belonged there, and his head tilted slow, and I realized he was staring at me. Not at Johnson. Not at the forest. Me. I swallowed, and my mouth was dry as paper. My feet wanted to back away, but the plank under me thrummed a warning like the bridge itself wouldn't allow it. Twice! The troll's eyes glowed faint as embers, and the bridge creaked, holding its breath. Johnson's ears tilted forward, but he stayed silent, waiting. All of them, troll, bridge, fox, they were all waiting on me. I reached into my pocket. The shoelace with the house key dangled there, but that was untouchable. I couldn't give that away, not even if I wanted to. If I ever wanted to see my front door again, I had to have that key. My hand brushed past it and found the thin stack of cards. I pulled them out and shuffled them with trembling fingers, each rectangle sharp against my skin, and there it was. My favorite. Cecil Fielder. The card was getting worn from being carried around. The photo showed him mid-swing, legs planted, bat whipping through the air like it might tear the whole world open. I remembered pulling it from a wax pack last week and the gum dust coating my tongue, my dad muttering about the Tigers never getting their act together. I remember tucking the card under my pillow before Little League games, convinced it might make me hit harder or run faster. That card was mine. The troll extended his hand, palm open, thick fingers waiting. No. The bridge hummed under my feet once, twice, the sound deepening until my teeth rattled. Johnson's ears twitched, but he didn't move. His tail flicked once as if to say, "You better make a decision, because this is how this goes." I held the card tighter. Why? Why this one? The troll didn't answer. His eyes glowed coal bright, unblinking. It was Johnson's voice that came behind me. Because it's dear. Because it hurts, kid. Toll never takes what you can spare, that wouldn't count. This isn't a river trade, kid. I swallowed hard. My throat burned like I'd swallowed fire, and the troll's hand stayed open, waiting. The bridge groaned, and the boards bowed slightly as though my weight alone was too much, like the bridge would give out any minute now. My hand shook as I handed the card over. Every muscle screamed not to, but something deeper knew there wasn't another way. I pressed it into the troll's palm. The wood beneath us went still. The troll studied the card, turning it once, twice, as though memorizing every crease. Then he tucked it into the stripes across his chest. It didn't vanish, it didn't burn, it wasn't a pocket. It just became part of him. The toll was taken. The boards under my feet hummed, almost like a low note of approval. Yeah, guess it's a good thing I'm a Tigers fan. Johnson didn't smile, and the troll didn't react at all. We walked forward, and I was lighter in the pocket, heavier everywhere else. The bridge carried us across plank by plank, and each step felt like it could count for more than distance, like the toll had been gravity tilted the world just slightly off center. The current below shimmered with reflections of home that weren't real, but made my eyes ache anyway, and when we reached the far bank, the air shifted. It was softer, greener. Mist curled low, hiding shapes of huts or maybe just shadows. And for a heartbeat, I thought this was it. This is the way out. This is the path home. I turned, expecting to see the arch return and the slab waiting like a door cracked open. But the bridge was already fading, planks slipping one by one back into the current. The reflections warped and melted, and the streetlights and bikes and houses dissolved into ripples. And behind us there was no arch at all, just more trees, their spirals tightening whenever I looked too close. Wait! This isn't the way back. I just want to go home. Johnson finally slowed. His ears were twitching. Listen close, then. To get back, you need a loop. A loop? He drew a closed circle in the air with one clawed finger. You've been on a straight line since the first crossing. First crossing was the arch that pulled you in. That was the opening. But it vanished. I turned and it was gone. Because the straight path only goes through. His voice was calm, even matter of fact, but it was softening some. He was trying. I could tell he was trying. If you want to go back, to travel back, you can't just turn around. You've got to make a loop. The troll, paying the toll, crossing the planks. That was the turn. That bent the line. Now the loop is set. So what happens now? Now we head back. Your arch will be waiting. You'll see it when the loop closes and the loop sticks. But you have to pay every time coming and going. Nobody rides for free, kid. I wanted to argue. I wanted to demand more than riddles, but the weight in my pocket silenced me. Only 2 cards left, edges biting my skin, the house key pressing deeper than ever as if it knew it was the last anchor I had. 44 cents. Couldn't even make a long-distance phone call with that. The mist swirled and the trees ahead leaned in again, spirals hidden in their bark like they'd been listening all along, and the whispers started up again, softer now but circling, carrying the rhythm of that one word, loop. I shoved my hands deep into my pockets and followed because there wasn't anything else I could do. The woods closed in around us again, as if the river had only been a pause between sentences, and the branches knitted overhead, catching the pale light, twisting it into thin ribbons that barely touched the ground. The air felt heavier this time, though. It was damp with a mist that wasn't there before. It at least made me feel like I was moving forward. Johnson padded ahead, his paws soundless on the damp earth. He didn't look back to check if I was following. He didn't need to. Where was I going to go? The path bent in such a way that there was nowhere else to go. I was hungry again, and my stomach was rumbling. Johnson whispered to a tree and pointed at me, and the tree bent lower, dangling fruit for us. He picked one and tossed it to me before taking one for himself. He bowed to the tree, and then he bit in. It was like if an apple and a berry had a baby. The texture was soft, but the taste was more apple than anything. It was weird, pretty much the prevailing theme, but it wasn't terrible. I reached back into my pocket one more time. Felt the contents, but it was the key this time that grabbed my attention. For half a second I let myself imagine it, the click of the lock and the groan of the hinge, the smell of spaghetti sauce drifting from the kitchen, my mom, tired, smelling of all things fried, but smiling at me when I came in. A ball game on TV in the other room, the announcer's voice tiny through the speaker, Dad in his chair, beer in hand, and the picture hurt so much I had to let it go. I whispered it this time. Gotta get home. Every time I said it, it felt like the words were smaller, like they were getting swallowed by the trees. The whispers in the branches twisted them, echoed them back until I wasn't sure if I said it or if the woods had. Come on then, kid, keep moving. Loops don't close themselves. It wasn't comfort, it wasn't even advice, just another stupid rule dropped like a stone in a pond. What if it doesn't work? What if the arch isn't there? Then we find another crossing, kid. The world is full of doors. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that everything would be okay. The woods pressed and the word pressed with them. Loop. Even my own thoughts started circling back, always landing on the same thing, home. I was as much stuck in a loop as I was walking it. And I kept walking because Johnson was right about one thing. Loops don't close themselves. The whispers rose around us, steady as breath, and the woods bent forward, pulling us deeper into the turn. And I hated everything at that moment. The forest with its whispers, the fox with his jacket and responses that didn't make any sense all at the same time, the stupid walking in a loop. I hated it all. I just wanted to go home. Hello again. Thank you for listening to this episode 3 of Mikey and the Garden Arch. This show was written and performed by Bryan Foster and is a product of Rust Belt Studios. You can find this show every other week And on the off week, you can listen to Engine of War, a more gritty kind of sci-fantasy show, or swing back on Fridays for Into the Dark of the Woods. Based in the northern parts of Michigan, it's a heavy folklore. It's not very scary. I know Into the Dark of the Woods sounds scary, but it's more twist. Like, it's got that supernatural twist, I suppose. Thank you for listening. Every listen helps support the studio. If you'd like to support us in other ways, you can swing on over to Patreon, and the link is in the show notes below. There you can subscribe to our $2, $5, or $9 tiers. Each one comes with its own little benefit. That $5 tier is about to heat up as we head into the holiday season in general. Anyway, we appreciate you being here, and until next time, my favorite listener.